Don't fear the unknown. Attack it.
The focus would have already begun shifting to Team Green if the COVID-19 pandemic hadn't thrown a ridiculous amount of obstacles at Arcane. Lockdown conditions forced the developer to push back on Deathloop's launch twice, and each one of those delays has delayed the potential of Deathloop arriving on Xbox consoles. Thankfully, Arcane's current target of September 14th for the PlayStation 5 and PC release seems realistic. Tango Gameworks, meanwhile, has been exceptionally quiet since the Ghostwire Tokyo gameplay reveal at Sony's PS5 Focus State of Play back in June. Currently, its release date holds steady at October 2021. With any luck, things will stay that way. As for things we've been able to play over the last year, much of Bethesda's focus has been on live service games. After a year of struggling to make amends for its disastrous launch, Bethesda Game Studios added NPCs to Fallout 76 in 2020's Wastelander update. This proved a radical change for the game, finally making it feel closer to a multiplayer Fallout RPG rather than an abandoned apocalypse. In the following months, Bethesda has issued 4 chunky updates to Fallout 76. Among them is Steel Dawn, which finally ushered in the return of fan-favourite faction, the Brotherhood of Steel. The Elder Scrolls Online has also given us a year of great content. 2020's expansion pack Greymoor added the beloved region of Skyrim to the MMO. 2021's new Blackwood expansion then dropped in Oblivion's Cyrodiil and the Black Marsh, and with that, The Elder Scrolls Online has now visited all the settings of the mainline RPG series. That means Bethesda should probably get a move on with The Elder Scrolls 6 so that The Elder Scrolls Online has another region that it can copy. Outside of the company's flagship universes though, Bethesda's had a quiet year. The most notable launch has been Doom Eternal's 2-part The Ancient Gods DLC. While this campaign added some new ideas to id Software's celebrated shooter, it's not the same as a new big release, and so, for the majority of the year, eyes have been on Bethesda's future.
Rip and tear until it is done.
The first step there has already been hinted at by Wolfenstein developer Machine Games. The Swedish studio announced in January that it's developing an Indiana Jones game, but stopped short at revealing anything more than a teaser trailer. This has, naturally, generated a huge amount of questions. Could this be Bethesda's first Xbox exclusive? Will it be Microsoft's answer to Uncharted? And all importantly, how many Nazis will we get to hit with a whip? That brings us to E3 2021, where Microsoft and Bethesda Showcase could provide some of those answers. It could also be where we finally see STARFIELD, Bethesda Game Studios' spacefaring game that was announced back in E3 2018. Almost nothing is known about STARFIELD, making it a perfect candidate for a big gameplay-focused reveal. Provided it is actually ready to be shown, of course. Much less likely to be part of the show is The Elder Scrolls 6. Its announcement back in 2018 felt more like a reassurance that a Skyrim sequel will definitely happen. Bethesda boss Todd Howard has also been keen to temper any ideas that we'll see the game soon. Those are all the games that we know about, but with 8 developers as part of Bethesda Softworks, there stands a chance that we'll see something unexpected. id Software could be in a position to announce something new. However, a new Doom or Quake project, if in development, is more likely to be announced at QuakeCon in August. If there is a surprise game to be announced by Bethesda at E3 2021, then put your bets on Arcane. The developer's Leon studio may be working on Deathloop, but the team in Austin has been quiet since the release of Prey back in 2017. Regardless of the announcements though, it will be the details that speak loudest on what kind of Xbox-focused future Bethesda has. Will all the new games be day one on Game Pass, like Xbox's other first-party studios? Or does Bethesda's unique position as an Xbox-owned publisher mean more platform and release flexibility? Whatever the answers may be, Bethesda fans from all console corners will be watching E3 2021 and hoping for the right announcements. And for everything else Bethesda and more Summer of Gaming, make sure to stick with IGN.
Hello everybody, June is here and it's a busy month for video games because E3 is right around the corner, but also a whole buttload of new games are on the way, so let's make this really quick because I got a whole bunch of other stuff I have to do this month. Here are June 2021's biggest game releases. On June 1st, The War and a Little Louder with Necromunda, Hired Gun, which ditches all that turn-based nonsense for big, loud, first-person shooting on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and PC. Then there's Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, which is on PS4 and Xbox One and PC, following its Switch release from earlier this year. The cooperative espionage puzzle adventure Operation Tango hits PC, both PlayStations, and all 3.5 Xboxes. And then of course the Elder Scrolls Online expansion, The Gates of Oblivion, comes to PC and Stadia and will be hitting consoles later on in the month. On June 2nd, Sludge Life hits Nintendo Switch. This is a Devolver-published indie which is officially described as a first-person, open-world, vandalism-centric stroll through a polluted island full of cranky idiots. Sounds nice. That's already on PC. On June 3rd, get ready to put the pedal to the other pedals with Tour de France 2021 on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and PC. And if that sounds like too much cardio and bicycles and spandex, you can swap that bike and the unitard for a desk chair and some nice spreadsheets in Pro Cycling Manager 2021. It's a lot of work keeping these bicycle men in... I'm kidding. I'm sorry, I don't know what a Pro Cycling Manager does. Somebody's got to manage these bicycle guys. Somebody's got to manage these bicycle guys going up and down hills all day. They're just pedaling every which way, drinking all sorts of sports juices and whatnot. I don't know what that game's about. Anyway, on June 4th, Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 lets you shoot people in the head on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and then DC Superhero Girls Teen Power on Switch probably doesn't let you shoot anybody anywhere, but seems like a nice time nonetheless. Also that day, the puzzle-focused Ori-like Evergate comes to PS5 following its release for basically everything else last year. And The Last Kids on Earth and the Staff of Doom comes to PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, adapting a popular young adult graphic novel series turned Netflix show that I'm just now hearing about because I'm old and out of touch. Finally, there's the deep space survival horror game The Persistence, which will persistently scare your space pants off of you on PS5 and Series X. On June 5th, another new Goose game is out, except this one actually has a title, and it's called Mighty Goose. The game is kind of like Metal Slug, except it's about those horrible birds that crap all over soccer fields. That's on basically everything that comes with the controller, except for Google Stadia. On June 8th, chug some mead, launch your friends out of catapults, throw roast chickens at people, and otherwise get medieval in Chivalry 2 on PS4, 5, Xbox One, Series X, and PC. And if you'd rather do more serious stuff involving swords, there's always the Elder Scrolls Online, now for PS5 and Series X, with consoles also getting that Gates of Oblivion update I mentioned earlier. If that's not enough sword stuff for one day, the 8th is also the PC release of Edge of Eternity, a JRPG inspired by Final Fantasy, which is technically an FRPG because it's made by French people. If you'd prefer a JRPG actually made in Japan that isn't inspired by Final Fantasy because it is a Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade comes to PS5 on June 10th to hold you over until they finish remaking the rest of that damn game. I want to ride chocobos and go snowboarding already. That day also sees the release of Ninja Gaiden Master Collection on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, or maybe that day doesn't see the release because ninjas are sneaky and they operate under the cover of night, but either way, that game is coming out then. If you missed out on Hyperdimension Neptunia way back on PS3 and then missed out when they remade it on PS Vita and then remade it again on PS4, well, great news because they finally remade it for PlayStation 5 and now it's called Neptunia Reverse and it's out that day as well. On June 11th, PS5 gets Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which must be enunciated lest you sound like you said ripped a fart by accident. That will hopefully give us a better idea of what the PS5 is capable of, but at the very least, it has a gun that turns people into shrubs, which is hilarious. PS5 Guilty Gear Strive that day as well, so you can make gorgeously animated people wearing way too many belts whip each other's asses faster than the human eye can even comprehend. Meanwhile, Nintendo Switch gets Game Builder Garage, which teaches the basics of game design and lets players share their creations on the internet, and you know that's gonna get real weird in no time at all. Also on Switch, as well as PS4, is Darius Burst EX Plus, another Chronicle, which is great if you don't think any of these other games have enough laser bullets, or flashing lights, or giant space slugs, or titles that sound like the memoir of a prescription drug. On the 22nd, you can squad up and party down with 3 friends to wail on some D&D monsters in Dark Alliance on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and PC. If that sounds too rowdy and you need some damn peace and quietus, there's also Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights on PC and Switch, and it's the quietest game on this list. On the 24th, Alex Kidd pays a visit to Miracle World DX on PS4, 5, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, and PS1 RPG classic Legend of Mana gets a big HD remaster on Switch, PS4, and PC. Also on PC is Roguebook, a deck-building roguelike from the creator of Magic the Gathering. Golf is a nice, quiet, laid-back sport, unless Waluigi shows up and starts making a scene, and that's exactly what's going to happen in Mario Golf Super Rush, hitting the Switch on the 25th. You can beat up some super cool looking monsters using psychokinesis in the anime-looking brainpunk RPG Scarlet Nexus, which is on all the PlayStations and the Xboxes and the PCs that can run it. And last but not least, Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is out for Switch, and I will not stop quoting that stupid meme when talking about that game. I think it's very funny, and I just won't let it go.
Let it go, let it go.
On the 29th, Nintendo Switch players can destroy all humans, finally, or defy their destinies in Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny. Hey, Disgaea right here defying his destiny. Get a load of that. Anyway, there's also Curve Space, which takes classic curvy and in space. That's on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, Switch, and PC. And finally, PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One owners can revisit the classic 16-bit LucasArts games Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol and see if they are as brutally hard as you remember them being way back in 4th grade. And I think they are, even with the additional save states for the re-release. Oh, also at some point in June, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis is supposedly fully launching. It is currently in beta, but only in the West on Xbox and PC, but I guess it's on PS4 and Switch in Japan, and I don't know if that's going to change at some point. They should probably send out an email or something. Anyway, as always, we probably forgot something or got something wrong or something got announced or delayed or canceled since we shot this video, but this month we have a good excuse for being behind, and that is we're getting ready for E3, where they're going to announce all kinds of new games, and I'll have to start thinking of clever, funny ways to announce their release dates in a video 5 months from now, and also think of excuses for why we forgot to put stuff into the July video, which we'll make a month from now. As always, thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it. Actually, no, I'm a little bit mad because enough of you watched these videos that it was a success, and now they make me do one that's for all of the stuff that's coming to the different video streaming platforms. So if you want to find out what's on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime Video or Shudder or Quibbly or Gumbo or whatever they're called, if you like to watch stuff as well as play stuff, go check that out. It's on the IGN channel. Did you know that Paramount Plus is getting 1,000 movies next month? I'm not joking. 1,000. I'm not even going to list them all. I'm going to go take a nap. Thank you. Good night.
Mass Effect, released in 2007, set the bar for what players expected from RPGs during the 360 era. It was entirely voice acted, used a branching conversation system that allowed for different outcomes in each situation, and promised to have narrative ties that would last the entire trilogy. Pitched over dinner by Casey Hudson as a sci-fi RPG, he believed that it would become a mainstream phenomenon and a must-have game for the Xbox 360. Fast forward 14 years later, and we're on the precipice of seeing Mass Effect Legendary Edition release on modern-day consoles and PC to much fanfare, meaning I'd say the entire BioWare team delivered on that goal. We've been given early access to some footage that showcases dramatic updates to the original Mass Effect and a peek at how Mass Effect 2 and 3 will also be improved. But let's start with a closer look at the original, the one that needed the most care, to take a look at how it's been updated. Beginning with a combat sequence, we get our first look at the updated HUD, and yes, your weapons will still use a cooldown system and not thermal clips like in Mass Effect 2 and 3. In addition, the weapons use a different reticle, and there are no longer class-specific weapon restrictions that make certain guns unusable for certain classes. But let's talk about the textures for a second. Using AI upscaling, the new look of this garage scene on Noveria is night and day when compared to the 360. The specifics may appear subtle, but one I can point out in this scene is a much more natural, soft effect of the lighting. They're using ambient occlusion in the scene, which you can see more clearly on the boxes that emit shadows. Stepping away from combat for a moment, we also got a tour of the main hub in Noveria. This footage opens with an amazing look at the new female Shepard model as she exits the elevator. The character models looked a lot better in Mass Effect 3, and with the new character model feature, you can start Mass Effect 1 as that iconic female Shepard. The lighting and camera placement has changed here too, putting you a little bit closer to the characters as they move through the levels or down elevators. The Noveria port has been heavily reworked in Legendary Edition, and you see some small elements as you exit the elevator. Couches have cushions, and the textures on the walls and concrete floors have been reworked. In the main hallway, they've added light fixtures across the entire room and even removed large pieces of geometry that previously would break up your path. Here's what BioWare's Mac Walters had to say about why the wall was removed.
The wall and why the wall came down in Noveria, right? You'll see them probably more so throughout Mass Effect 1. They were really just meant for streaming occlusion, essentially sightlines, right? In large open spaces, which we had quite a few of in Mass Effect 1. Whatever the game has to render is going to start to hit your performance. So when you have a wall there, when you come off the elevator, it just means that you don't have to show the whole level and load the whole level and have everything on screen as soon as you get off the elevator. And so the art team wanted to try taking it out, and it worked great, and I think it looks awesome.
When you reach the garage with the Mako inside, you'll also notice an additional lighting in the room and objects that have been completely remodeled. Even on the Mako, there's texture and dirt on the tires, and it looks a lot more rugged and used. Looking at the provided Mako footage is really interesting to me because this is one of the key areas of the original that needed work. The original Mako was floaty, bouncy, and while I can't comment on how the Mako controls now, as I haven't played it yet, we did get to see two driving sections. The first is directly after you leave the Noveria port, and again the new textures on the ice-covered mountain are immediately visible, but if you watch the Mako drive, you might notice some changes, like a boost feature. Here's BioWare producer Renata Cronin on how the Mako changed.
It is so much better now. We've made it better in that it handles better, it targets better. You know, we changed up the reticle when you're shooting with the Mako now so that it actually hits where you're aiming, which is very awesome, because it didn't used to do that before. You know, we've added boosters to it as well. We're still in the process of sort of tweaking it a little bit, so this clip right here is not necessarily representative of the end product, but it's got all the major improvements that we wanted. Now we're just playing around with, you know, how weighty does it feel, because it's still a little bit floaty, as you can see, but now it feels more, you know, like you're driving a tank and not, you know, a car that floats for some reason.
Later, we also got a peek at a Thresher Maw fight on Antibar that shows another gameplay addition. Yes, the Thresher Maw still moves around, but now with a trail so you have a clearer picture of where they're headed with each movement. That should result in fewer instant deaths. There's also a new sensory tentacle phase to the encounter, where you need to avoid the maw and the tentacles as you battle. At the finale, you can notice the plumes of smoke have a lot more body to them also. I'm a little more hopeful about the Mako after seeing this footage. All of this is on top of massively decreased loading times provided by hardware advances like faster hard drives. This is a side-by-side shot of the original and Legendary Edition. As you can see, you can choose to instantly be at your destination, while in the original, you would be waiting for a significant period of time. And two smaller but important systems we gotta look at were the inventory system and character creator. So the inventory system has been reworked, and it seems you can more easily sort, dismantle, and compare your gear for you and your squad mates. This also applies to the store, which looks to give you different view options depending on what you're looking to buy and sell. The character creator, which allows you to create a character before you begin playing any of the games in the trilogy, is also drastically updated. The original benefits the most from this, and I've gone back to see how close I can get the 2007 character models to the new models, but the options just aren't comparable. There are more hairstyles, more makeup options, more skin tone options, and you're really allowed to go all out. Looking at Mass Effect 2, we didn't see nearly as much, but there's a lot more detail in what we did see than I expected. The outfits have been reworked, meaning no more orange suits, and all of the outfits available in Mass Effect 3 are now available in Mass Effect 2. And while I don't have any fish at this point in my Mass Effect 2 save, what you should really be looking at is in the new game, as there are improved reflections on the tank itself.
So what we're doing there is instead of doing a screen space reflection, we're doing what's called a render to texture. So you're basically just re-rendering the world in a texture in that space. And so you have to be very careful where you can use them, because you can imagine a scenario where if you use it in the wrong space, you're basically paying twice for your rendering, right?
The rest of the Normandy benefits tremendously from the facelift. In Lair of the Shadow Broker, the lighting is changed as you can see in the distance, but most changes in this expansion are subtle. The 4K assets are very apparent, and they may have added a depth of field effect, which I noticed on the ship. In addition, there are a few moments where the new lighting reflects off of surfaces, like at the end of this footage when the array is retracted. Here's BioWare producer Brennan Holmes with a few thoughts.
Mostly it's just graphical improvements here, right? So like on the gameplay side, it's mostly just been bug fixes for Mass 2. We're pretty happy with kind of where Mass 2 is at, but you can see sort of improved visual effects here. Lighting's a lot better. I think I could probably talk a little bit about the DLC stuff as well in here. So it's now embedded in various stores, or you can get it through upgrades in the Normandy. Like DLC is always the fun time when it's, you got all your tools and everything, and everyone just kind of goes crazy. And I remember them pitching this concept around like, yeah, let's have a fight on the outside of the ship, and it'll be like, in the lightning storm with all this stuff going on. And that was just a really cool concept.
And last but certainly not least is Mass Effect 3, which does benefit from all the texture updates, character model updates, and anti-aliasing improvements. But because it was so polished at launch, I asked BioWare what players can expect for the third entry in the series. Here's what Mac Walters had to say about this already stellar entry.
I think it's in the sort of global improvements where you're going to feel it in ME3. The interesting thing there is we knew that Mass Effect 1 would need the most work, but we also wanted to leave everything on the table if there were things that we really wanted to improve there. And the more we sort of dug into 3, we felt like, look, we are more at risk of taking something that was pretty damn good and making it worse, or just making a lateral move where it's different, but is it actually better? And a lot of times we just said, yeah, no, it's fine. Gameplay, everything is good the way it is. There were bugs, and we couldn't fix all of them, but we fixed a lot of them, sort of thing. And we would find them all throughout all 3 games, sort of thing. So I think that's another thing. And you probably would go, oh yeah, this feels less buggy. But if you were to play them side by side, you'd be like, oh, okay, yes, I see what you did there. Putting them all together with all of the DLC, including things like, armor packs and alternate appearances and stuff like that. And when you get all of that content together, and there is less of that sort of what I would call friction in Mass Effect 1 that kind of is like, oh boy, I like it, but it's really making me work for it. It does feel like a whole experience. It together feels very obviously modernized, but it just feels more than more than some of its parts.
I was already sold on playing through the series once more, and the Legendary Edition gives me the perfect opportunity. The first Mass Effect might just be my favorite game ever made because of the promise of biotic-powered gameplay, stellar storytelling unlike anything I had seen at the time, and space exploration to unique planets. I look forward to jumping back in this May. A special thank you to BioWare for providing the commentary today and for making this amazing trilogy. It is honestly a game that will always be special to me, and I'm so happy to see the amount of care going into this remaster. I'll be doing a full performance review on the final code, so keep an eye out to see how it runs on each platform. In the meantime, if you're looking for performance reviews, keep an eye on IGN Games, as myself and my colleague Michael release new episodes each week, so be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. And a personal note from me to you, thank you for watching. I just love making this series. For more on all things gaming, we've got you covered at IGN.
The guerrilla fantasy of building a revolution from scratch has been a staple of the Far Cry games, and although Far Cry 6 looks to carry on in that tradition, there's plenty of newness here too. During my hands-off preview and interview with lead designer David Gravel, I was impressed with the fresh systems the team has baked into the latest game. For a series with Far Cry's pedigree and built-in player base, they took bigger swings than they strictly needed to, from tweaking the game's outpost system to introducing the possibility of Hitman-like stealth to a wild array of cobbled-together weapons that will definitely get more into. Above all else, the game aims to put more options at your disposal than ever before. In Far Cry 6, you'll team up with a band of revolutionaries calling themselves Libertad, working to overthrow the fascist regime of El Presidente Anton Castillo, and free a Caribbean island state and Cuba-like called Yara. It's through Libertad that players learn the art of resolver, a guerrilla concept of using every resource at your disposal. The developers weren't afraid to run with that idea, to the point of sometimes taking things a little over the top, and I mean that in a good way. By scrapping together various items, you'll unlock weapons like El Pequeño, a massive minigun powered by a motorcycle engine, or a gun rigged out of an old portable CD player that blasts the Macarena while you down baddies. And let's talk Supremos, customizable super weapons you deploy from a backpack. At the preview session, they mostly showed the one that fires a barrage of rockets in all directions when you're desperate, but the game will naturally feature a number of different Supremos, including some that support a stealthy playstyle. And stealth has a new meaning in Far Cry 6 as well. There's a holstering system this time around, and in-game checkpoints the player can talk, bribe, or shoot their way through. It's now a legitimate option to blend in and lay low. Until you don't. Once the S hits the F, you'll be able to make your getaway in a slew of new ways. You could take a guerrilla path, one of Libertad's hidden corridors through the dense jungle, hop into one of your customizable rides complete with jets coming out of the exhaust, or mount your horse and disappear into the hills. Speaking of horses, Far Cry 6 seems to have taken a page out of Red Dead 2's book, adding camp activities to the bases you unlock and develop, giving players more of a reason to hang out at HQ. Animal companions are also back, with at least 2 spotted in preview footage. There's Guapo, an alligator with a taste for man flesh.
Good grok.
And Chorizo, an adorable little doggy used to distract enemies during stealth runs. We were also promised that FND bases, what this game calls outposts, have been varied in an attempt to refresh the time-honored Ubisoft tradition of killing some dudes and changing the color of that part of the map. That said, we didn't get to see a base takeover in action, so how much these tweaks really alter remains to be seen. But it's clear that the Far Cry 6 team have taken some risks with the formula, while maintaining the core gameplay elements they've refined over the years. Yara's unique mashup of Far Cry's standard jungle environments and an aging Comunista city-state is already a bold move, and like the Yarans themselves, the dev team seem to have taken that momentum and tried their best to utilize every part of the animal. We'll see if the borderline zany combat clashes with what seems to be the fairly serious tone of the storyline, but ultimately, I'm excited to see such a well-worn franchise trying out a few new maneuvers, and I definitely left the preview session more excited for Far Cry 6. David Gravel also led the Far Cry Primal team, so he's no stranger to unique entries in the series. It looks like he's bringing the same sort of originality to this game, beefed up with the systems introduced in 5 and plenty of new ones to boot. Hopefully, it all comes together and makes for a wild, dictator-deposing ride. For more on the world of Yara, the complete written version of this preview, and everything Far Cry 6, hit up IGN.
Good boy.
I never knew so many people lived around here. Get to the center and we'll be fine. Need to reload.
Need ammo.
What have we here?
Need that.
"12 years ago, a small development team owned by Valve known as Valve South dropped a little game called Left 4 Dead, a zombie-themed co-op first-person shooter that pit 4 players against a zombie horde and forced them to look out for the group as opposed to just looking out for the individual if they hope to survive. This helped give birth to a whole new subgenre of co-op survival first-person shooters. And while Valve continued the legacy with Left 4 Dead 2, the original developers of Left 4 Dead, now reformed as Turtle Rock Studios, had not returned to the genre that they helped pioneer. That changes with Back 4 Blood, an appropriately titled 4-player zombie-themed co-op survival shooter that goes into closed alpha testing starting today. And if my early impressions are anything to go off of, it's good to have Turtle Rock back where they belong. So much of Back 4 Blood is directly inspired by Left 4 Dead that I think it's actually important to lead off with the areas in which it tries to be different. And nowhere is that more apparent than in its deck building system. In Back 4 Blood, you actually build a deck of cards that you take in with you to each level. These cards are broken into 4 categories: Reflex, Discipline, Brawn, and Fortune. Reflex cards typically focus on granting bonuses to speed or stamina. Discipline cards are all about efficiency, so they offer buffs that give better accuracy, better healing, more ammo, and so on. Brawn cards buff your health, damage, and resistances. And finally, Fortune cards focus on cards that give you a % chance of something happening, along with other general utility-focused boons, like the ability to have unlimited ammo on your secondary weapon, or being able to shoot while sprinting. You select 15 of these cards to build your deck, and at the beginning of every level, you'll draw 3 and pick 1 card 4 times. And those 4 cards that you choose will be your starting set of active buffs and boons that you'll take with you into the first part of the level. Every time you hit a safe room and move on to the next act, you'll be able to add another active card into the mix. On the flip side of that though are the corruption cards, played by the game's AI director. Each level begins with a selection of corruption cards that inform the players of what enemies and obstacles they can expect to face. Just like how you're able to add new active cards at the beginning of every new act, there are also new corruption cards that are added that will throw a new curveball at you. Whether it be fog that makes it hard to see faraway threats, more zombie hordes, a giant ogre that you have to fight right at the start of the act, and so on. The limited nature of the alpha prevented me from really seeing the depth of the deck system, since there's only really one level and a relatively small selection of corruption cards that can change up how the level is played, but the idea seems really promising, especially the interplay between being able to see what corruption cards are coming up and then being able to plan out with your team what active cards you want to bring in into the next act as a way to prepare. It adds another layer of teamwork and coordination, since you have to ensure that you're not doubling up on cards and have all your bases covered. Another big change to the formula is the addition of a mini shop at the beginning of each new act. Instead of being gifted with new weapons and items at a safe house, instead you're given the opportunity to choose what you want to outfit yourself with before moving on. You do this with a resource called copper, which you can find out in the levels themselves in scarce amounts. This is actually a pretty big change, since you no longer find any sort of health or item pickups in safe rooms. It's up to you to purchase them all for yourself, and if you don't have the 500 copper to afford a first aid kit, you're gonna have to make the tough decision of whether you want to save that copper for the next act, or use what you have to load up on ammo, grenades, or whatever else you can afford. Everything else is pretty much as you would expect of a co-op zombie survival shooter developed by the team that essentially brought the genre into existence. You'll need to stick together with your team, since there are special zombies that can incapacitate and eventually kill you if you're not assisted by a teammate. Wretches behave almost identically to boomers and will explode in a burst of bile that can attract the horde. Hawkers spit loogies at you that can slow you down and potentially lock you in place. And snitches will creep around until they're startled, at which point they'll alert the horde if not killed fast enough. And then there are the giant zombies like the ogre, which seem nearly indestructible and force my team to turn tail and run if we wanted to live to fight another day. Likewise, the one level that we got to play was also very reminiscent of Left 4 Dead in terms of its structure and objectives. In one part, we had to hold strong against a bunch of zombies while a loud gravel filler dropped enough rocks to give us a ramp to scurry up to climb over a wall, and in another, we had to blast away a propane tank and then book it across a collapsed bridge in order to escape the pursuing zombie horde attracted by the noise. And then there's also some interesting set pieces that felt completely new. Being forced to contend with a giant ogre while also trying to find a way through a cluttered tunnel was all sorts of stressful in the best kind of way. And having to split up the team to plant 2 bombs on a cruise liner while 2 others hung back and provided cover with mounted turrets was a nice climatic way to cap off the level. It's also worth mentioning that despite going through the campaign 3 times, no 2 runs ever felt the same. Obviously, the card system does a lot of that heavy lifting by changing things up every act, but on a base level, there's a ton of randomization at play in terms of enemy and item placements. Certain rooms that were completely empty on one run would be chock full of zombies on another. Doors that were once completely safe to open might now have an alarm that triggers the horde if you carelessly open them. There's just a ton of stuff happening under the hood to ensure that these levels are as replayable as they can be. Overall, my first experience with Back 4 Blood felt like just the right balance between old and familiar and new and fresh. Turtle Rock obviously knows this genre inside and out, and the ways in which they're emphasizing player choice through deck customization and vendors at the end of every act feels like a smart shift in direction that still stays true to its roots. Thanks for watching, and for more Back 4 Blood, keep it here on IGN.
From Disney heroes like Iron Man and Mickey Mouse, to spiky-haired soldiers with buster swords and uncomfortably long-limbed creepy hat creatures, few publishers have as varied a portfolio to show off as Square Enix. Square had quite the wild 12 months, with long-awaited and long-delayed games finally seeing the light. Let's take a look back, and content warning, I hope you aren't already sick of the words Final Fantasy, because you may be after we've finished here. First though, I'm going to cheat. Let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, which technically did come out over 12 months ago now, but it just doesn't feel right to talk about Square's year without it. Not only was the long-awaited RPG a critical success, but it went a long way towards ensuring Square was a profitable company in 2020. In fact, it did so well that the company's releasing it again this month as Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, complete with PS5 improvements and new story content centered around everyone's favourite materia thief, Yuffie. But what about the next full part of that remake? With no word on when to expect it, maybe a reveal is an outside bet for what we could see at this E3 showcase. There's plenty more Final Fantasy VII to tide us over until then though, with both the First Soldier and Ever Crisis recently revealed. The former, a mobile battle royale game, and the latter another, yes really, remake of Final Fantasy VII, this time reverting back to its traditional turn-based combat. Is that enough Final Fantasy for you? Well, Square certainly doesn't think so.
Isn't that what you want?
The past 12 months has seen the continued resurgence of Final Fantasy XIV Online, with more players joining the MMO than ever, an upgraded version released, plus the announcement of the Endwalker expansion coming later in 2021 that will take players to the moon. Insert, that wizard came from the moon joke here. Yes, we are almost halfway through this thing, but there's still more Final Fantasy to talk about. I did warn you. Revealed at September's PlayStation 5 event, Final Fantasy XVI looks to be bringing the series back to its more medieval fantasy roots. With little known apart from some backstory about the game's fictional setting of Valisthea, there's plenty more we'd love to find out, and this year's E3 looks like the perfect place to do that. And now for something completely different. Last summer saw the long-awaited arrival of Marvel's Avengers, which really did turn out to be a game of two halves. Crystal Dynamics' interpretations of beloved superheroes and the single-player campaign that introduced us to them was a fun, action-packed 6 to 8 hours. Sadly, its post-game, gear-chasing online component didn't really live up to billing. It's been a rocky few months since launch for Avengers, with a dwindling player base and lack of content, two major issues for any live service game. There is a potential saviour on the horizon though, in the form of Black Panther. The War for Wakanda expansion is set to drop later this year, which needs to give players enough reason to flood back in order to steady the ship. Square does at least have form here. It more than made up for a troubled start to Final Fantasy XIV's life. Let's hope the same attitude is applied here. It's not all been doom and gloom. People Can Fly's looter shooter Outriders hit the spot for many thanks to its power trip combat and addictive gear loop. People Can Fly's previously teased big expansions that will add to Outriders' story, so that's something to keep an eye out for this E3. Near Replicant version 1.2247448713 ... showed off more unique delights from the mind of Yoko Taro with this upgraded version of the Nier Automata prequel. Bravely Default 2 gave us a beautiful RPG to play on the Nintendo Switch, and rhythm action spin-off Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory hit all the nostalgic notes it needed to. And then there was Balan Wonderworld. Maybe less said about that one the better. So what can we expect from Square Enix soon? We know that Life is Strange True Colors is due to come out in September, and while we've got a decent look at it recently, a reveal of this entry's spin on the series' gameplay seems like something we'll see soon. Neo: The World Ends With You, the long-awaited sequel to the 2007 action RPG The World Ends With You, is arriving as soon as July, plus Babylon's Fall, the painterly looking epic full of trademark Platinum Games action that we've heard pretty much nothing about since this time last year. Surely it must be time to see more. Then there are the games currently scheduled for 2022. Project Athia was recently retitled as Forspoken, another game we know very little about apart from a post-apocalyptic setting and an abundance of dragons. Then there's Project Triangle Strategy, the spiritual successor to Octopath Traveler that hasn't even been given a proper title yet, but has received a full playable proof of concept demo. These are both games we'd love to know more about, but wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything for a while yet. So that's everything we know is going on in the world of Square Enix, but what about the reveals we can only guess at right now? It's always fun to speculate, right? So let's have a go at it. It's been a couple of years now since we've heard what Lara Croft is up to. Has the time come for Tomb Raider to make a comeback at this E3? Yoko Taro has confirmed he's begun work on a new game that he, quote, has no idea how to explain or sell. Might be a bit of a long shot to see it right now, but you never do know with him. There's also Deus Ex and Thief, franchises with passionate fan bases who would surely love to see more. The truth is, there's no way of knowing until Square shares all with the world this summer, although surely they don't have yet another Final Fantasy game to announce just yet. Surely. One thing is for certain though, very few publishers are able to match the variety that Square Enix offers on a yearly basis, and you can more or less guarantee that that will continue.
The PS5 and Xbox Series X have only been available for 6 months, but already the newest generation of consoles has been a busy one. From big exclusives to console updates and problems to much more, PlayStation and Xbox's newest consoles are off to a fascinating start. How have they stacked up so far, and has much changed since launch day? Well, IGN's Jonathan Dornbush and Ryan McCaffrey are here to answer just that, starting things off with a look at next-gen exclusives that have launched in the last few months.
So I'd say it's been pretty quiet across the board for next-gen games since both of these consoles launched last November, but at least on Sony's side, I think like with launch day, they've been doing a little better than Xbox on the exclusive games front. We've gotten Destruction All-Stars, which launched in February, and while it definitely had a bit of a light launch, they've been adding to it and improving it and definitely supporting it since that launch day. And then of course in April, we got Returnal from Housemarque, and though there have been a lot of talk about whether or not it should have some save states in it, it definitely showed that Housemarque can make a pretty impressive third-person action game that really takes advantage of what the PS5 is doing and things like the DualSense and 3D audio. It's a really nice mix of showing off what a next-gen game can be.
Sadly, still, big system-selling games remain the Achilles heel for Microsoft. We're 6 months in, and there is exactly one game that is completely exclusive to the next-gen Xbox, meaning not available on PlayStation, not available on Xbox One. That game's The Medium. And, hey, it's a good game, but it's not exactly, pumping as much next-gen iron in the gym as, say, Returnal is or Demon's Souls. But still, first-party reinforcements are coming for Microsoft, and the good news is, once they finally do arrive, it's probably never gonna stop again. I mean, they bought Bethesda after all. It's a lot of reinforcements. They are gonna kick it off. They got this year. So Microsoft Flight Simulator, which looks like it's gonna be a next-gen only release on console. And then of course, Halo Infinite in the fall. On the Bethesda side, we're still not quite sure what's gonna happen with Starfield. Is it gonna be exclusive? Is there some sort of deal there with Sony like there was with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo? But if indeed Starfield is exclusive, that is going to be the ace of Microsoft's sleeve. You've got a new Todd Howard game that could be exclusive to Xbox. But Jonathan, one area where Microsoft obviously wins by a one-punch TKO, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out style, is game subscription services. Xbox Game Pass is so good, my friend, that it has actually stolen one of your exclusives. MLB The Show is on Game Pass on Xbox, and it used to be, of course, a complete and total Sony exclusive. So that's awesome. Other cool stuff recently, you've got the previously Switch exclusive Octopath Traveler, Destiny 2, more. It just keeps coming. All that stuff has helped keep us entertained while we're still waiting on the big exclusives on the Microsoft side. And even better, xCloud is now rolling out to iOS devices, to Apple stuff, so that pretty soon, anybody with a smartphone, which is basically everyone, that has a Game Pass Ultimate subscription is going to be able to play their games not only on their console, but from anywhere through their phone at no extra cost for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. That's just a totally impossible to ignore force in the entire games industry when you take all of that as a whole. Now, if only games with gold didn't suck now, but, I can't really complain.
It is definitely a strange time to say a PlayStation-developed game costs more on PlayStation than on Xbox if you have subscription services on both. It is a very strange place to be, and it's of course, you're completely right. You can't compare what PlayStation's offering to Game Pass. Just nothing stacks up. But at least in a vacuum, thinking of what PlayStation players have been dealing with, things have been largely the same getting into the PS5 generation, but at the very least, I'd say PlayStation Plus's games lineup each month has been a lot better. Definitely when they pared down the lineup of games on PS Plus from 6 down to 2, they didn't really find a way to up the value there or, keep the value the same. And for a while, PS Plus kind of felt like a waste with those games. But thankfully, since the launch of the PS5, we've gotten almost a brand new PlayStation 5 game every month on PS Plus as part of that lineup. Stuff like Destruction All-Stars, Bugsnax, Oddworld Soulstorm, and Maquette. Obviously, again, it does not compare to the game after game that is coming to Game Pass, but at least taken for what PS Plus was, it's nice to see them adding a little bit of value. Of course, probably the closest thing to Game Pass that PlayStation actually does offer is PlayStation Now, but they really haven't brought that service into the generation of the PS5. You can play it on PS5, but they don't allow PlayStation 5 games yet to be a part of the service, and this really came to a head when they added Borderlands 3 and Marvel's Avengers to PlayStation Now, but only the PS4 versions. It's strange, especially to be in a place where there is a subscription service that does have a library of games and does span genres that PlayStation could really be bolstering, but it just doesn't match up to what Game Pass offers, and it's becoming painfully more clear as the months go on. Now, on the peripheral side, talking about things being a little bit the same as what we've gotten before, the PlayStation 5 launched with a decent amount of peripheral support, like a pretty good charging station that was kind of in the look and feel of the PS5's new, very ostentatious design. We got the Pulse 3D headset that takes a really great advantage of the built-in 3D audio of the PS5 and is really affordable, especially compared to some other high-end headphones, and, a few things like that, including the media remote, the one peripheral we've all been trying to actually get our hands on. And while we only had the single option for the DualSense controller at launch, luckily PlayStation has revealed that we are getting 2 new colors to add to the DualSense lineup. Those include Cosmic Red, which is a red and black colorway, as well as a Midnight Black colorway, which is entirely black and aligned a little bit more with past PlayStation controllers at launch. So those are 2 options that we know of right now, and Sony definitely loves to introduce new colors as generations go on, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is just the start. We haven't quite been able to get any sense of what's to come other than some PlayStation VR new controllers that'll be on the horizon, but that is way down the line. At the very least, third-party headsets are compatible with the PlayStation 5, so if you're not a fan of the Pulse headset but do want to take advantage of 3D audio, there are some other options for you. Unfortunately, I think the biggest thing when it comes to PS5 and peripherals is an advantage the PlayStation is supposed to have over Xbox, but just hasn't happened yet, and that is a more accessible opportunity to get expandable storage. PlayStation has said the PS5 will be compatible with third-party drives that, as long as they match the speeds of the internal SSD, players will be able to expand that internal storage. But we don't have information about what drives those will be, from what companies, when that will be incorporated into the PlayStation 5. We're just kind of left waiting, and that's really a big problem when there are only 667 gigs of available data on the PS5 at launch. That's maybe 2 Call of Duties these days. It really doesn't stack up to being much in the long run. And so that's already a problem we're getting to 6 months in, of a lot of people having to play Tetris with their game files basically on their hard drive. So hopefully that gets resolved soon, and I do think that will be an advantage the PS5 will have over Xbox, but as of right now, it really isn't.
Yeah, for now, Microsoft's got their 1 terabyte storage card. I've got one in there. In fact, I'm already onto it because these big games of this new generation take up a lot of space, so it's good to have, even if it's expensive. Now, since launch, though, Microsoft has added the new Xbox wireless headset, which is roughly an analog to the Pulse 3D headset for Sony. I really like it a lot. It's, I think, for $100, which is what it cost. I think you get a lot for your money. It sounds good. I like the minimalist design. And what I really like is that it can be paired with your smartphone at the same time, or any Bluetooth device, and so you can actually be chatting on Discord with your friends while also playing an Xbox game and getting the audio from your Xbox at the same time, which is pretty cool. Microsoft removed the optical port from the Xbox Series X, just like Sony did with the PS5, so we kind of needed this. It was a little bit of a bummer it wasn't there at launch, but now there is this good option, so that's really good. Plus, I want to give a special shout out to Microsoft for pumping out a whole bunch of cool new colors since launch for their controllers. I've got the Pulse Red one right here. It's nice to have something besides just the default black, so I appreciate them for that. But Jonathan, controller colors aren't the only things being updated, the consoles are too. Now on the Xbox side, the Series X actually hasn't really had any major updates because it hasn't needed them. Pretty much all the functionality that was needed was right there on day one, which is great, but Microsoft still added some good stuff. Most notably, Quick Resume has been improved, and there's a new optional suspend mode that can help speed up your game downloads, which, as we talked about, these games are huge, so being able to speed those up is always appreciated. And then probably the coolest one of all is FPS Boost, the backwards compatibility team continuing to crush it at Microsoft. There are now almost 100, as we record this, almost 100 backward compatible games that are boosted up to either 60 frames per second if they were originally 30, and some games even go up to 120 frames per second, like Titanfall 2, which is one of the best games of the last 5-10 years, which rocks. We've also seen Microsoft drop the Xbox Live subscription requirement for over 50 free-to-play games, which I do admit, that's more of a course correction than a welcome new addition, but still great.
Yeah, it's always good to see advancement like that. That was definitely something that happened with PlayStation finally allowing crossplay last generation. I very much understand. Yeah, the PlayStation is in a very different place because whereas Xbox sort of unified its UI across generations and made everything very familiar for jumping into the Series X, PlayStation opted to do a brand new user interface. And while it's certainly cool to have a new nice and shiny UI to look at launch, that means some new problems come up that maybe PlayStation had fixed on the PS4 even years ago. So we're in a bit of a strange place, but we did thankfully get our first really big PS5 major software update in April, I believe it was, and with that came a few important and needed updates, such as allowing support for 120 Hz displays, and finally the ability to store PS5 games on USB expanded storage, You can't still play it off of that, but at least you can actually put PS5 games somewhere other than the internal SSD. And there were a few other added social and interface features that really helped improve things that people have been having issues with since launch. But that said, even with that update, there are still a lot of things fans are asking for. I think, especially after Returnal, we're seeing a lot of ask for some sort of quick resume analogous feature to come to PlayStation. There have been things like wanting variable refresh rate to come, the expandable storage issues I mentioned before, and of course even just small things that have popped up since launch, like people are pretty unhappy with the way trophies are presented on PlayStation 5 because it's clunkier than they were on PS4, and it didn't need to be. So there's definitely some work that's going to have to go into the PS5's UI in the months to come. And so it's been really great to see PlayStation addressing things already with an update like that one in April and some smaller performance updates, both for the system and the DualSense since the PlayStation 5 launched in November. But that said, this whole span since that launch hasn't exactly been the smoothest for the PS5. Now, thankfully, there hasn't been anything that is as ubiquitous or widespread as the Red Ring of Death from the Xbox 360 era, but pretty much since launch day, there was sort of a whack-a-mole situation going on where a new PS5 issue seemed to crop up every few days, and so it's been hard to say what are the most proliferated issues that players have been having, how much of the player base actually saw these, but definitely one of the ones that we've seen stick around is DualSense controller drift. We've definitely seen some stick drift there that PlayStation is now facing a class action lawsuit because of, very similarly to Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con drift. That said, there have been a few other issues, such as rest mode bugs and occasionally downloading the PS4 version of the game when you wanted the PS5 version, but thankfully, again, nothing has been catastrophic across the board, but it's been a sort of strange, oh, what's that new issue I'm hearing about today?
On the Xbox side here, Series X owners complaining here and there of controller drift again and random disconnects. But other than that, really, the console's been pretty much working as designed. It is quiet, it is cool, it is powerful. There haven't been any major OS issues, crashes, any other real problems of note that I've seen out in the community. Basically, I would say it's been pretty smooth sailing on the Xbox side. In fact, probably the best launch Microsoft could have possibly hoped for on the hardware side, outside of the very obvious and very frustrating and sadly very ongoing supply issues.
And there you have it. The first 6 months of the newest console generation are behind us. Of course, there is plenty more ahead, and we'll be covering all the latest news, releases, and more on IGN as well as on our weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch. Be sure to tune in, follow along with us as the journey of the PS5 and Xbox Series X continues, and keep it locked to IGN.
I doubt you could even imagine it. That which commanded the stars, giving life its fullest brilliance. The Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. Shattered by someone or something. Don't tell me you don't see it. Look up at the sky. The world is filled with stories of legendary heroes and treacherous villains, of fantastical creatures and wondrous places where nature and magic live in perfect harmony.
Razer Keynote at E3, the world's biggest video games convention. We have got an insane show for everyone today. We have come a long way here together, for gamers, by gamers, and today we're one of the biggest gaming brands in the world. We span hundreds of millions of gamers, from PC gaming to console gaming to mobile gaming. But what I'd like to talk a little bit about today, to kick things off, is PC gaming, something near, dear, close to my heart, and pretty much to talk about the decade of the Razer Blade. So in 2011, we launched the world's first true gaming laptop. And this caused quite a bit of controversy back then because gaming laptops were not gaming laptops in the true sense of the word. They were gaming luggables back in the day, super thick, super heavy. And the Razer Blade was the first true gaming laptop in the sense it was super thin, super light, and super powerful. And it ushered in a new generation of gaming laptops. And since then, over the past 10 years, the entire industry has moved to follow in the footsteps of the Razer Blade. In 2013, we launched the world's thinnest gaming laptop. 2016, we invented the world's first Thunderbolt 3 external GPU. In 2018, we launched the world's smallest 15-inch gaming laptop. And since then, we've now got the entire Razer Blade family. We've got the Blade Stealth 13, we've got the Blade Pro 17, and of course, we've got the Blade 15. And the Razer Blade has been both a critical and commercial success. It's been called the very best gaming laptop in the world and continues to win accolades over and over again. And at this point, many of our fans, many of the Razer community is asking, what's next? So we go down and we talk to every single one of our fan base, for gamers, by gamers, we talk to the press. And one thing that we've heard consistently over the past couple of years is, when is Razer going to make an AMD gaming laptop? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm incredibly excited to be able to announce that we're now working closely together with AMD, and we've put the very best designers and engineers together with the top AMD engineers, and what we've created in a single line is the ultimate AMD gaming laptop. And with that, we are bringing back the legendary Razer Blade 14. How do we do this? How do we make the ultimate AMD gaming laptop? Well, we took a look at the 14-inch gaming laptops today. Now, many of them have tried to follow in the footsteps of the Blade 14 that we created some 10 years ago, and many things have changed since then. In terms of form factor, many of the gaming laptops out there are portable, but we feel they could be thinner, could be slimmer. Now, over and above, in terms of GPUs, there's been not much innovation. Don't get me wrong, they've got a great GPU in there, but they max out at a RTX 3060. In fact, in terms of total graphics power, or TGP, they max out at just 80 watts. And we feel it could go much higher with, of course, the right materials and with, of course, the right cooling thermal solutions. Now, as we talk about materials, unfortunately, most of them still use really non-premium builds. Now, one thing that we do at Razer that all of you are familiar with is that we look at doing really premium builds. We've got CNC'd machined chassis. We want to make sure that you've got the best possible no flex kind of a chassis, but many of the ones out there don't have that. And of course, cooling. Many of the 14-inch gaming laptops are still using solutions that we pioneered some 10 years ago. at Razer, we've really pushed it ahead. We've had vapor chamber cooling for years now. We are in the next generation of that. We've done that for laptops. We've done that for phones over and over. Now, in terms of having all this last-gen tech, many of them are still limited in terms of the ports that they've got. They've got only a couple of Type A ports, a couple of Type C ports, so on and so forth. And they've got truly uninspired keyboards. They're using single color backlit keyboards. Why? Because they don't have space or they don't have the imagination. But at Razer, we've got loads and loads of imagination. And what do we want to imagine? Well, a whole lot of ultras. Ultra what? Well, ultra powerful. We want it to be ultra powerful. We want it to be ultra thin. We want it to be ultra fast. We want to have ultra connectivity. We want it to be ultra responsive. And of course, ultra immersive. That's a lot of ultras to make the ultimate AMD gaming laptop. But let's talk about how ultra powerful the new Razer Blade 14 is. Now, together with AMD and Razer, we have designed and engineered in a single line the world's most powerful 14-inch gaming laptop. This is not any normal gaming laptop that we're talking about. We're talking about the world's most powerful 14-inch gaming laptop. And to this end, we wanted to pick one of the most powerful CPUs on the planet today, and we've picked the AMD Ryzen 5900HX. This is truly an incredible CPU. We are talking about a HX class, an extreme class AMD processor, and it's an unlocked processor. Unlike many of the other laptops out there using the HS class processors, we are using a HX class unlocked processor, a Zen 3 mobile processor in a cutting-edge 7-nanometer level. It's an 8-core x86 CPU, and it's got up to a whopping 4.6 gigahertz of power. This is an insanely great CPU. And joining me here today talking about this partnership to make the ultimate AMD gaming laptop is Jason Banter, VP of Product Management of AMD.
Razer is known for some of the most innovative gaming laptops in the industry. Razer has established a design, quality, and performance standard that is second to none. That's why we at AMD are excited to partner with Razer for the first time, bringing Ryzen, the world's best mobile gaming processors, to the Razer laptop lineup. Engineers from both companies partnered together, start to finish, to bring the best components, the best performance, and the best experience together in the new Razer Blade 14. The new Blade 14 features an unlocked Ryzen 9 5900HX processor, enabling elite gaming performance on a thin and light notebook with amazing battery life. The 5900HX delivers 8 cores and 16 threads of Zen 3 core performance. A max boost clock of up to 4.6 gigahertz quickly dispatches workloads, reduces latency when gaming, and performs 3D renders at breakneck speeds. The 5900HX also doubles the L3 cache size compared to the 4000 series. This massive on-chip memory is vital to unlock the full performance of discrete graphics for gaming. And all of this is based on 7-nanometer process technology. The AMD Ryzen 9 HX series was designed to deliver the most immersive gaming experience you can get in a laptop with zero compromises. From all of us at AMD, congratulations to Min and the entire Razer team for outstanding execution on this project. We're proud to be a part of this generation of Razer Blade laptops and look forward to expanding these opportunities for gamers in the future.
Thank you very much, Jason. So that was Jason of AMD talking about our partnership. But the CPU, of course, while we've picked one of the most powerful in the world, is just half the equation. What's on the other half of the equation? Well, the GPU. We've picked one of the most powerful CPUs in the world, and we've also picked one of the most powerful GPUs. And we're talking, of course, about the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 30 series. Now, our engineers and NVIDIA, we've been working together for many years. We've been optimizing it. We've got the best GPUs in the world with NVIDIA. They've got up to 8 gigs of VRAM. And one thing that we did is that we've managed to push the total gaming power up to 100 watts of power. We're not talking about the 80 watts that everyone else is doing. We've pushed it all the way to the limit, up to 100 watts of TGP, and in something as small and thin as a 14-inch form factor. Now, of course, we start with the RTX 3060. It's a great GPU. That's what everybody else is also using, but we wanted to start with that. Now, over and above, our thermals guys said, you know, we're crazy at Razer. We're the mad scientists. We can take it a notch further. So what have we done? Well, in the new Razer Blade 14, we've got an RTX 3070 option. That's a truly powerful GPU matched with a truly powerful CPU. But we're Razer. We want to take it up to 11. We are going all the way up to the moon. And what we've done with the new Razer Blade 14 is that we have now added as an option a crazy and insane RTX 3080. Imagine that, the most powerful GPU on the planet with one of the most powerful CPUs on the planet. It's truly, truly powerful. And of course, joining me here on screen today from NVIDIA to talk about how we've put this crazy RTX 3080 into an ultra-thin form factor of the new Razer Blade 14 is Matt, VP, Global GeForce Marketing at NVIDIA, on screen.
Thanks, Min, for inviting us to present at your event. Once again, we're excited to partner with Razer on the development and launch of a Blade laptop. This time, the all-new Blade 14 powered by GeForce RTX. For the first time, gamers can experience an RTX 3070 and 3080 laptop GPU in a 14-inch form factor. It packs incredible performance in an ultra-thin, sleek design. Wherever you go, you can play the most stunning and graphically demanding games because the RTX 30 series includes 2nd-gen RT cores that enable fast ray tracing. Enjoy realistic lighting, reflections, shadows, ambient occlusion, and more. All of those make your games more immersive. Ray tracing is featured in many of today's most popular games. NVIDIA DLSS also has been widely adopted by games. Many refer to it as magical. DLSS provides a huge boost to performance using AI rendering and looks as good or better than traditional methods. Dedicated tensor cores built into the RTX GPU do the AI processing. Now, in addition to the high frame rates pumped out by the GeForce GPU, NVIDIA Reflex low latency technologies give gamers the competitive edge in their favorite games. NVIDIA Reflex is now supported in 7 of the top 10 competitive shooters. But we're talking about laptops, so efficient power usage is incredibly important to making gaming laptops as thin and cool and quiet as possible. That's where our Max-Q technologies come in. Every aspect of the laptop, the GPU, software, PCB design, power delivery, and thermals are all optimized for power and performance. With the help of AI, high-performance gaming laptops are faster and better than ever before. Let me give you an example. Dynamic Boost 2. It automatically distributes the power across the GPU memory, and the CPU for maximum performance, whether you're gaming or creating. We can't wait for gamers and creators to experience the incredible power and the portability of the new Razer Blade 14. Min, thank you for your great partnership.
Thank you very much, Matt. And that is the ultimate AMD gaming laptop, ultra powerful, and we just talked about it. But we've not just got true power. It's not just the world's most powerful 14-inch gaming laptop. Let's talk a little bit about how it's ultra thin. Now, how thin have we gotten it? Well, it's not just ultra thin. It is the world's thinnest 14-inch gaming laptop. Let it sink in. Think about it. I just said this is the world's most powerful 14-inch gaming laptop, and now I'm actually saying it's also the world's thinnest 14-inch gaming laptop. We are talking about 16.8 millimeters thin with a 3080. Mind you, It's 0.66 inches thin. And the reason for it is because for the past 10 years, we've been bringing together the very best thermals engineers on the planet. They've got all kinds of innovative solutions. They've been pushing the limits. And what we've got over here in the Razer Blade 14 is the next generation vapor chambers. And we've designed this from ground up. We are light years ahead of the competition. Many of them are still copying what we've done 10 years ago. And today we're 10 years ahead. We're a full decade ahead. We've designed the next generation vapor chambers in the Blade 14. Each of these tiny little fans have got 88 fan blades. And we worked with fluid dynamics scientists. We made sure that every fan blade was designed from the ground up. 88 fan blades. What does that mean? Every single fan blade in our fans is about 0.1 millimeters thin. We have designed fan blades the width of a human hair. In addition, of course, we are using T6 grade aluminum CNC chassis. You've got to kind of touch it to believe it. You've got to understand that's what a Razer blade is about, that premium quality. And of course, that super durable anodized finish. Ultra thin, the world's thinnest 14-inch gaming laptop. So let's talk about how fast it is. Ultra fast. We've got the fastest 14-inch display. We've got two options. We've got a FHD 144 Hz, and we've got a QHD at a blazing fast 165 Hz. It's 100% DCI P3 display, IPS grade. It's AMD FreeSync Premium, and every single display is custom calibrated right out of the factory. Ultra fast. Now let's talk about connectivity really quickly. Ultra connectivity, lots and lots and lots and lots of ports. We're talking about Wi-Fi 6E. We've got Bluetooth 5.2. Now, some of the gaming laptops, or the 14-inch gaming laptops, don't even have space to put a camera there. It's a Windows Hello I ports. We've got, on one end of the chassis, we've got a Type A, we've got a Type C Gen 2. The Type C, is Gen 2 charging. It's got a display port. In addition to that, we've got HDMI 2.1, which has an output of 4K, 120 Hertz. Now, on the other end, we've also got another Type A, another Type C. We've got lots and lots of ports. Ultra connectivity. Let's talk about how responsive it is. Ultra responsive. It's got a full anti-ghosted keyboard. We've pioneered this many, many years ago. Now, one of the things I'm really proud of is how buttery smooth. This is like melted butter. The precision touchpad is. It's a beautiful touchpad. You've got to touch it to believe it. And unlike all the other inspired keyboards, we've got a per key Razer Chroma RGB keyboard. It's a fantastic keyboard. It's an incredible keyboard. It's got a beautiful key travel. You got to try it to believe it. This is a legend by itself. It's ultra responsive. And now let's talk a little bit about how immersive the new Blade 14 is. And what we've got incorporated inside this is THX spatial audio, giving that beautiful spatial surround sound all around you. And of course, we're using it with upward firing speakers. That's a truly, truly great set of speakers. And at this point of time, I'm sure most of you guys watching, some of you guys may be skeptical. We've made it so powerful. We've made it so thin. We've packed it chock full of all kinds of features. This is like a laptop, which is 10 years in the future. What have we compromised? And at Razer, we do not compromise. You'll know it if you own one of our Blade laptops. We do not compromise. And some of you may suspect we may have put a really tiny battery in there. Absolutely not. Because on a single charge, the Blade 14 runs for up to 12 hours. That's an insane level of battery life in the Blade 14. Now, the team has put together a video, a quick ad to kind of show it to everyone. I'm sure you're excited to see it. And let's show it for everyone. Here you go.
Yeah, this is what I'm made of. This is for the throne and the kingdom. The king's here, yelling freedom. Do or die, do it now if you believe it. You reap what you sow every season. Yeah, you kill what you eat when you feasting. Yeah, it's death before the sign of no treason. No, in that time of war, no retreat. Never lay down and die on my feet. I look the reaper in his eyes and won't blink. I'm the voice every time that I speak. It's like thunder when it strikes. I'm the king. I'm the king. I am supreme. I am king.
And at this point of time, I'm sure all of you would like to see the actual real thing. This is not a figment of my imagination. This is not a figment of the imagination of a gamer out there. But here it is, the legendary Razer Blade 14, back in flesh or back in CNC aluminum. You can see it's ultra thin. Imagine that we've got a HX class CPU in there. We've got a 5900 Ryzen, of course. We've also got a 3080 NVIDIA GeForce GPU, all in an ultra-thin 16.8 millimeter form factor. It's super thin. All right, I'm sure you guys would like to see the display. This is a 165 Hertz display. As you can see, it's just truly beautiful. And yes, there is a webcam, all right? So check it out. And it just sounds beautiful. So this is the new Blade 14. It's so compact, packing a 3080. Imagine that. And really quickly, to take us through this is the world's most powerful 14-inch gaming laptop. It's ultra powerful. It's ultra thin. It's the world's thinnest 14-inch gaming laptop. Just imagine I'm saying that at the same time. Ultra fast. It's got ultra connectivity. Look at all the ports on both ends. It's got an ultra responsive gaming keyboard, and it's ultra immersive. You know, you've seen the upward firing speakers, and all of this with 12 hours of battery life. Today, together with AMD, I'm incredibly excited to announce the ultimate AMD gaming laptop, the new Razer Blade 14. Now, at this point of time, you want to know the price, you want to know availability. Well, I'm sure with a product like that, you're probably quaking inside thinking, is this going to be a $5,000 laptop? It's got all the insane features. It's got the most powerful CPUs and GPUs, right? You know, is this going to be a $3,000 laptop? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the new Razer Blade 14 starts at just $1,799. When is it available? Well, not in 10 years from now. It's available right now today. By the end of this keynote, you can order it. And where can you order it? Well, you can order it online at Razer.com or at any of our global Razer stores. You can check them out. And of course, at leading retailers globally, you can check it out right away today at just starting from $1,799. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Razer Blade 14, the ultimate AMD gaming laptop. So that's the first product that we've got today. And we've still got a big show ahead. So what's next? Insanely small, insanely powerful. And what am I talking about? Well, it's our all-new USB-C 130-watt GAN charger. 10 years ago, when we first launched the Razer Blade, one of the big innovations that we did was we went and redesigned the charger. 10 years later, we're now really pushing the limits of what we can do with power. So here is a traditional power brick. It's shipped in many of the other gaming laptops out there. Not a Razer laptop, but this is often in many of the other gaming laptops. This is 130-watt size of a power brick, all right? It's almost 3 inches tall. It's got about 6 inches wide. How big is the new Razer GAN charger? Or how much smaller is it? It's up to 59% smaller. It's so tiny, it can fit in your pocket. And it's not just smaller, it's also up to about 17% shorter. It's an incredibly small charger. So I thought you guys would like to see how small or how large the chargers are. This is a traditional 130-watt power brick. It's pretty big, it's pretty heavy. It's something that will ship with your traditional luggable kind of a laptop. So how small is the Razer GAN charger? Boom, it's just hiding behind it. It's just so tiny. The same amount of power that it's packing from 130 watt, and this is a 130 watt charger. And this is already considered one of the smaller 130 watt chargers out there. You can see how tiny, how small it is, but we've got another surprise for all of you. This charger can only do one thing. It charges your 130 watt laptop or gaming laptop. This charger doesn't just charge your laptop. Boom, it charges up to 4 devices simultaneously. That's how powerful, that's how insane this product is. This is the Razer GAN charger, USB-C 130 watts of power, truly compact power. Here's the side profile. Here's the front profile. You can see the 4 ports, 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As, truly compact power. And here's a perspective shot. Truly, we've designed this so that this is the perfect charger that you can buy. It allows you faster charging up to 4 devices. It's mobile and travel ready with global adapter plugs. And in summary, it's small enough to fit your pocket. Charge up to 4 devices at once. Faster charging, 2 times USB-A, 2 times USB-C, mobile and travel ready. And it's got safer power delivery features. Now, what does it work with? Well, lots and lots of selected devices. As long as it's got USB-C and charging, it works with a whole slew of Razer Blade laptops, Apple MacBooks, both the Pro and the Air, Windows laptops like the Dell XPS, tablets, smartphones, smartwatches, and much more. So, is this $500? Is it $300? Well, absolutely not. The Razer GAN charger is just $179.99. You can pre-order it right now, and we're shipping within the next 30 days. And you can buy it, of course, at Razer.com, any of our Razer stores, and at leading retailers globally. This is the Razer 130 watt GAN charger, and you'll want to be making your pre-orders right now because this is truly the ultimate charger. Next up, Pixel Perfect. Well, a couple of years ago, we launched the Razer Raptor 27. What do we have with it? With a new Razer Raptor? Well, still a 27-inch form factor. It's got an IPS display. It's got a beautiful QHD resolution display. Now, what we've done is we've upped the refresh rate from 144 Hz from the previous generation to a faster 165 Hz refresh rate. In addition, we've looked at how to ensure that there's tear-free adaptive sync. It's not just using NVIDIA G-Sync, but it's also compatible with AMD FreeSync Premium. And we've got one of the best display panels in the industry. It's got a 95% DCI P3 color space, HDR, high dynamic range display. And something I'm really proud of is that this is the world's first THX certified gaming monitor. And we've worked really closely together with THX, specifically with the gentleman, Eric Gemmer, who's got decades of experience in making sure that he certifies the very best displays in the market. And joining me on screen here today is Eric, talking a little bit about our partnership.
Hi there, I'm Eric Gemmer, THX's Director of Imaging Technologies. I'm pleased to announce that THX has certified its first ever gaming PC monitor, the newly refreshed Razer Raptor 27-inch. If you don't know, to become THX certified, a monitor like the Razer Raptor must pass 400 different tests run by the certification team and me. The THX certification process makes sure that the screen in question will perform remarkably well, and our testing process includes ensuring panels are lit consistently, colors are accurate, and the image is pristine and clear. The result is a stunningly good screen that is good for fast-paced gameplay and other challenging scenarios. More importantly, THX certification plus the Razer Raptor's fast refresh rate of 165 Hz and 1 millisecond response time means the screen will keep with your superhuman reflexes. If you're a creator, the THX certified screens, like the Raptor, have the added benefit of being a great option for color grading. If you've ever worked on an artistic endeavor and the colors you see look off compared to other screens, don't worry. THX's certified screens and our exacting attention to detail means the Razer Raptor 27 serves as a benchmark for color accuracy, so your next project will look true to your artistic vision. If the Razer Raptor is your main entertainment screen, you're in luck, because like all THX certified screens, the Razer Raptor 27 includes our renowned THX Cinema Mode. When it comes time to enjoy your favorite blockbuster movie or TV shows, it'll look spectacular and pixel perfect by correcting for color, brightness, grayscale, and removing any excessive and unwanted video processing. Across the board, the Razer Raptor 27 is a superb entertainment screen, and we hope you enjoy the quality THX certification brings to the new Razer Raptor 27.
Thank you very much, Eric. So that's Eric, who's had decades and decades of experience in terms of making sure that the very best displays in the world are certified in accordance to THX's highest standards. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the new Razer Raptor 27. It's got a forged aluminum construction. It's got a beautiful construction. It's got a unique 90-degree tilt that you can flex it and have it positioned any way you like it. And it's got lots and lots and lots of ports. It's got a beautiful integrated cable management. It's truly unique. You can see it from the rear. And when you touch the back of the new Razer Raptor 27, it's got a beautiful textured fabric backing. Now, the display is optimized in terms of software. We've had optimized gaming modes, as well as immersive cinema modes that you can use. And over and above, of course, it's integrated with Razer Chroma RGB. So it fits the entire Chroma RGB family. With Chroma as the world's largest RGB platform, you can rest assured the new Razer Raptor will fit in terms of the entire desktop or battle station that you have. Now, one of the things that we've done to update the new Razer Raptor 27 is to include VESA compatibility. New Razer Raptor will allow you to use monitor arms with a VESA-compatible mount, and this is also backward compatible with the previous Razer Raptor 27. And of course, the mounts are sold separately, and I thought I'd share a little picture of how a triple screen monitor might look on your desk, and it looks just beautiful. Now, at this point, I'm sure many of you guys would like to see a video that we've put together for the new Razer Raptor 27, and here you go. All right, so at this point of time, let's do a quick demo of the new Razer Raptor 27. Let's call up the Raptor 27. All right, here you go. It's got a beautiful, beautiful screen. It's forged out of aluminum. It's a beautiful monitor. Let's turn it around so people can see the integrated cable management. As you can see, it's got a truly unique cable management system. All right, let's turn it to the front again. And one of the things that we've updated, the new Raptor 27, is, of course, the VESA mount. And with the VESA mount, now you can have a triple screen monitor. There you go, boom. Display over here, right on your battle station. If you turn it around, you can see how it looks. It's truly, truly unique. And we're really excited to be able to present this here today, the new Razer Raptor 27. Thank you very much. So, in closing, it's got an ultra-fast display. We've upped it to 165 Hz. It's a beautiful display. It's got adaptive sync. Bear in mind, it's got both G-Sync and AMD FreeSync Premium. It's the world's first THX-certified monitor. And it's a VESA mount compatible, sold separately. And it's got this really clean, ultra-clean cable management system. And lots of ports. So how much is the new Razer Raptor? Well, you can pre-order it right now at just $799, and we will be shipping within the next 30 days. And of course, like most Razer products, you can order it at Razer.com, Razer stores globally, and leading retailers. And also, you can order the new Visa mount, which is optional, at just $99, available today at Razer.com and at global Razer stores. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Razer Raptor 27, pixel perfect. So that's what we have today at our Razer Keynote at E3. Remember to join us after this. We've got Razer Store Live. Every month we run this. We've got great new products that we announce. We've got giveaways, and we stream it live from one of our Razer stores somewhere in the world. But that's not all. We've got one more thing to share with everyone, and it's safe, social, and sustainable. And what am I talking about? Well, no other than Project Hazel. We announced this at CES earlier this year. And at CES, we had some truly insane press coverage with everyone out there saying, when can I get a Project Hazel? Will you make it into reality? And it wasn't just the press. We had resounding response from the community, every single one asking us to make Project Hazel a reality. And many of you had great ideas for features to remove. We've heard your feedback. We continue to hear your feedback on Twitter, on Facebook. Ping us anytime because we listen to all the feedback for gamers, by gamers. And what I thought I would do today is that I'd give everyone an update on the project because we are going to be making Project Hazel a reality. So what kind of updates can we give? Well, when the pandemic first started, we converted one of our manufacturing facilities to make surgical masks. Today, we at Razer make high quality, certified surgical masks, and we ship them worldwide. We've donated over 1 million masks worldwide in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, etc. And we continue to do that. High quality surgical masks meeting the very best standards. And what we've done is that we've taken the learnings from that, the engineering, the design, and we've put that into Project Hazel. So Project Hazel is going to be using replaceable N95 grade filters. We've now designed in a secure silicon face seal. These are just some of the updates since the last time that we talked about this at CES. And we are going to make sure that Project Hazel follows the lab testing with BFE rating that we've done for our surgical masks. That's the safe aspect. Now, what about the social aspect? What are we keeping? What are we not keeping? Well, first up, the clear, transparent design. We're definitely keeping that. We're also adding in interior lighting so that in low light conditions, you can still see the face of the Project Hazel user. And one of the big things that we've added this time around is anti-fog coating. So we've got an anti-fog coating on the inside of the Project Hazel to ensure that the social function still remains even during use. Now, what about sustainability? Now, many of you will be aware sustainability is at the core of what we do over here at Razer. We care a lot about the environment. One of the things that concerned us the most when we were making these one-off surgical masks was the sustainability of the surgical masks. Well, Project Hazel has got a reusable mask design, and every single filter lasts 3 times longer than single-use surgical masks. And what I'm really proud to say is that every filter uses 80% less material than traditional surgical masks. Now, I'm sure many of you are waiting to try out Project Hazel, and I'm going to talk about availability at the end of this. But if you can't wait to try Project Hazel out, we've got something really special for all of you. You can try the Project Hazel filter online and see how it looks on your face. You can check it out on Instagram, check out Razer, and here's a quick video to show how you can use the Project Hazel filter on Insta. Now remember to tag us with your Project Hazel filters because we will be watching out for all of you, and we might have some pretty cool giveaways for Project Hazel when the time comes for shipping. So we've got a quick video to show you the updates that we've made since the last time we announced this at CES. Here you go. So, I'm sure many of you are asking, when can I get one? When do they ship? Well, with the insane demand that we're expecting for Project Hazel, we've put together a plan so that we can get as many of these units out to you as possible. We're going to have limited quantities right from the get-go. So once we start manufacturing, we're going to be doing sale by drops. We'll have all the database of everybody who wants a Project Hazel, and we'll send you information once there are units available. And our first drop is going to be happening early Q4. We're still perfecting it. We're taking in all the beta feedback. You're going to see units out in the field, but the first drop is going to happen early Q4 once we've got most of the testing and certification done. And it's going to be available exclusively on Razer.com. And you can sign up now for all the information at rzr.to/project-hazel. So thank you very much for joining us here today at the Razer Keynote at E3. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Goodbye.